Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast with NBA shooting coach Dave Love and your host, Matt Robertson, exploring the cutting edge of evidence-based shooting development in basketball today, from shooting form to skill acquisition to shot metrics. This is the Coach Dave Love podcast.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson, and with me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, what's going on professionally for you this week?
Geez, I don't know if I can say this one. I think I can. I think I figured out a way to get the spin of the basketball from the flight of the basketball. Which most people are going to go, what is he talking about? Sorry, I'm nerding out over this. I had to find a Formula One aerodynamics person. Like one of these guys where you look at their job title and you're like, what the heck does that mean? I had to find one of those in order to help me do this. But yeah, I'm super fired up about this nerdy thing.
Coach Dave Love, what is your coaching life right now?
Yeah, it involves a lot more cables, wires, and data than I ever thought my coaching life would. So, but I'm loving it.
I love that, Dave. This is going to be an interesting episode. We have an awesome guest today. Dave, do you want to introduce the guest?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this whole podcast is going to be an introduction. So this is Joerik Michiels. Joerik started a program in Antwerp, Belgium, 15 years ago, Joerik, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And basketball development program for youth players. And I became aware of him probably about 10 years ago and admired from a distance for a long time. And then I think you came to Calgary for a clinic. Were we friends before that, Joerik?
I think we were messaging on Instagram, but then I asked if you would be okay to go and have a coffee, and then the coffee turned out to be a half day, I think, that we spent together. And I asked 5 million questions to you, and that was a very interesting day. Yeah, I still remember a lot from it, and it's now 7 years.
I remember where we went, where we sat, who was with us. My wife still remembers. Like, I don't have to. You're one of the rare basketball people that she's met once that I don't have to explain. Joerik is the guy that we did this with. I don't have to do that. She's like, no, I remember Joerik.
Yeah.
And
it's a compliment. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And so I want to touch on for Matt because Matt isn't aware of your career right now. And I think that's going to be the case for some people where they're going to, I feel like you're one of these guys that people either like know and love and have been aware of for a while or aren't aware yet, but should have been. And I feel like that's a nice little sweet spot to be in. You're not Taylor Swift. You're like the most popular band in a really cool country that the rest of the world hasn't discovered yet, but they're going to. This whole podcast is going to be me gushing about Joerik. So the things that we're going to touch on, Matt, just so you know, we're going to touch on CNP, which I referred to in the preamble. You don't know what that means yet. We're going to refer to Lego. Probably a lot of PowerPoint, and we'll try and squeeze in some basketball here and there.
Okay.
Fire me up.
Joerik, what makes the most sense of those things that I kind of mentioned there? What makes the most sense to start with?
I know you like the CMP part, so we can start with that. So,
I worry that like it's kind of a guiding light in my life where at times I think like I was not a CNP there because I know I have that side of my personality where I can be. We've discussed it, you and I, but explain to Matt what it is and where it started.
Yeah, first of all, we probably all have a site like that in us. So, but CMP stands for Certified Nice Person. So the idea is that we want to do things with other CMPs, and we want to hang as much with CMP people. So, for example, for us, if we hire, the number one criteria to go and work in our company is you got to be a CMP. And so it's more like a gut feeling. And yeah, it's kind of like the opposite. We all know people where you hang out with and you just don't have a good feeling, a good vibe, like call it energy vampires, like you go home and you have like you're drained, all your energy is gone, and we just want to hang out with CMPs. And that's, I think, why we also talk a lot. Dave is kind of like we try to find more people around the world, and who have the same mission, the same vision in life, and the way they treat people, and just just give you good energy.
Who I when you talk about this, there is a person in particular that jumps to my mind, like just the nicest person I know, or one of the nicest and I feel like, okay, now I want to highlight that person. Can you, like, who is your biggest example of a CNP? I'll give mine after that, and then we'll put Matt on the spot, and he's got to highlight who's the CNP that jumps to mind.
I think for me, it's someone who's pretty close to you, like another Canadian. I would say Tanner Brightman is for sure my CMP. Like, I learned a lot from him and how he treats people, how the feeling he creates to people, and just never judge people, always talk great behind their back about people, and always trying to lift others. And I think he's, for me, is my biggest example for sure.
Jared Moore, Tanner's wonderful. You're correct, and Jared Moore, who I think you know out of Australia. He's I think coaching director for basketball in New South Wales. We have a similar rule when we go out for dinner. We always, when I'm in Australia, we go to the same spot and basically try and recreate the same night that we had the first time that we went out, and it was so much fun. And we do a pretty good job of recreating it. We have a no dickheads rule. Nice. That, like, I always encourage them, invite whoever you want, whomever you want, and but he'll follow it up with, just no dickhead rule. and everybody that he invites ends up being a wonderful person as well. So Jared Moore is my CNP.
Nice.
Maddie, who you got?
Yeah, there's, like, as you're talking, there's a bunch of awesome people in my life, and people have given me time that they really didn't need to, people way above my station that have given me a lot of time. But there's one person in particular. He runs a business, a bunch of physiotherapy clinics in Moncton. His name's John Gonzalez. And you just see him and he radiates happiness. And we don't get to spend all that much time together in orbit, but the time that I do get, that really fills my bucket. He's the person you see, and that smile is infectious, and you get a feeling because you see that person. There's 5 or 6 people in my orbit like that. When I bump into them, I get so excited. I have a really, like, it's a spark of joy when you see their faces, and then you settle into your rhythm. But yeah, for sure.
I love it. Can you take us back? I don't really know your early, like, your playing background and your early coaching background. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started playing basketball when I was 5 or 6 years old. Then I played till I was 19, always at the decent level, or the highest level in Belgium for youth development. And then I had some pretty bad injuries, like some surgeries, and I felt like the dream of becoming a pro that every kid had was not going to happen for me. But because I had the chance to train at the highest level of the youth, I did saw a lot of gaps that were missing in Belgian basketball and the culture. So, for example, like, there was no such thing as the off season. Like, nobody trains in the summer. There was no such thing as strength and conditioning at that part. There was no such thing as skill development. There were no trainers you can work with outside your club. And then in the summer, we started kind of like training just with our friends, just training people for free. and just posted it on social media. That was kind of like the start of YouTube, the start of Instagram. And after
How old would you have been at this point?
I was 19. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so 15 years ago. And then by the end of the summer, we had 20 professional players wanted to work out. And we did a first kind of like, everybody was saying like, you should do a camp. You should do a camp. I'm like, all right, let's try. We do an off-season camp. And we had 75 kids. It was sold out. And that was kind of like in the first month. So then I started like, okay, cool. There is a lot of people asking about this. So then we started, training more kids, training some clubs, and then saving all that money in the first 4 years. And then we had enough money to open our 24/7 basketball facility, and it took off from there. So that was kind of like the elite athletes program. Yeah.
Joerik, were you working on the side, or was this your full-time baby at that point in time?
I was still in college at this point, but kind of like I didn't really had a plan B, you know. So it was like, I'm gonna make this happen, and we'll see. I don't know how, but we will find a way, you know. So I never really worked or did anything else than elite athletes or elite academy. Yeah.
When you were this young and building your career, Joerik, how you talked about not having a plan B.
Yeah.
How far down the road did you have your plan A? Like, was it, I kind of know what I'm doing for the next 6 months, and during that time, I'll figure out the next 6 months after that? Or was it, I'm going to try and accomplish this and this and this and this?
To be honest, like I get this question all the time, and now even when I'm in year 15, I have the same answer. Like, I don't know where I want to be in 2 years. I don't know where I want to be in 5 years, but I know what I want to do today, and I know what I want to do tomorrow, and I'm just doing this, you know. And it always leads to something new. But I don't like to plan my life. I feel like everything happens for a reason, and in the end, it's always something good. And if it's not something good, you learn from it. So. Of course, I did have some dreams. I had some dreams like I want to open my own academy. I want to open my own facility. So, but I had the first time I put my goals and I wrote them down and was like, okay, in 10 years, I want to do this. And then I did it in 4 years. So after that, I was like, okay, don't make long-term plans, because I probably could have done even shorter if I wanted to. So, yeah.
Right. I think that's a superpower or an important skill that people need to have. A lot of people that I'll speak to that ask for advice, they'll say things like, I want to work in the NBA. And I say, well, what would you like to do in the NBA? Oh, man, it doesn't matter. I'd do anything. And I always think in my head and usually say out loud, well, if your goal is to get to a location and do whatever you want to get to that or whatever you need to get to that location, you're not going to be willing to work hard enough to get good at that anything in order to get to that location, because you don't love it. Yeah. And I feel like it almost has to be an accident that it happens. My path was very similar, where I just I kind of knew I'm going to do this right now and make that as good as I can make it, and then we'll see what the next step is after that.
Dave, when we first met, I think it was our second time hanging out. I was still playing professionally, and you were like, "What are your goals? Like, where do you want to go with basketball?" And obviously, I was like, "Yeah, like I want to coach at a high level, whatever." And you were like, "Okay, what are your skills? Quantify them for me. Like, what are your quantifiable things and your qualitative things?" And so, not only to have focus and direction, but also like, what are the things about you that are going to get you there? There's a person in my life who's also a CNP. Her name's Erica Mitten. She texted me yesterday. She's like, "Hey, can we like put our goals for 2025 down on paper and talk about them?" And I was like, absolutely. Like, that is like, there's something magical about having direction, having vision, and then having enough self-awareness, knowing the things about you that will steer you in those directions. That's a really cool thing, Joerik.
And what I love about what Erica just said, like, I'm not a resolution person, but I love the fact that she likes trying to create this village. Like, let's all kind of do this. Let's support each other. I love that part of it. I think that's more
Mm.
important than the writing down of it. And I feel like Joerik's going to have some thoughts.
No, yeah, and maybe even also to build on it, like there was one time where I had like this goal of I want to also work for the NBA. I want to work in the NBA in a team, and then after a while, I was like, why is that? Why do I have that goal? And I felt like it was more like an ego thing, like, I want to work in the NBA because then I can say like, hey, I did it, I working with NBA guys, and I felt like, but it's not really what fills my cup, I like to work with kids as much as I like to work with pros. I like to have freedom. I like to have work on creative things, and I felt that was a goal for me that was just kind of like pure for other people, and not really
Yeah.
who I truly am. So I feel that a lot with when you talk to young trainers also, like, yeah, I want to work with the best players in the world. You're like, yeah, but you don't even want to start with these kids because it all starts in there, and if you do good things and you treat people well, then automatically I feel doors are going to open, but you cannot have, yeah, I think a lot of these goals are just not truly what you really want, but yeah, you have to be able to go and see who you truly are, and then you can set a goal. And I think a lot of people miss that part, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell me about your facility? When we dropped off on your story, you had just bought your facility. When
Mhm.
you walked in, what did it look like when you first bought it or took possession of it? And then what has it become for the people that aren't aware?
So it was a garage for old timers. So you had like it was literally full with cars. And then we were able to renovate it step by step. So you have a half court and then strength and conditioning part. And I wanted to create something kind of like that creates community automatically when you come in. So the way it's set up is we all have like these very cozy spots where you can sit together, but nothing is like normal. Like the benches, you need to climb, and you have a bench maybe 5 meters high where you have a vision over the court, and it's like with pillows, and you have a TV and a PlayStation, and we have something that we called, for example, the Dreamer's Bench from Walt Disney. And then you literally have to do a pull up and get on top of the bench. So maybe only like, let's say, 10 people in 5 years have been on that bench. But when you get on that bench, you see a very small quote, for example, on it that you can only see when you're on top of it. Something about chasing your dreams, and you take already the first step, like you're already did something that most people wouldn't do, stuff like that. So I want it to be very inspirational. So we maybe have over 50 quotes in the gym. Some of them are very big, and they're about working hard and building confidence. Those will be around the basketball court. But then we also have a lot of quotes about life, about being a CMP, about showing kindness, about failure, about how to deal with that stuff. But maybe a lot of these quotes would be you're sitting on the toilet and you're looking upstairs and now you see something. So I wanted to create something. That's why the gym is also 24/7 open. We only allow 100 people because if you go over 100 people, you lose the community feeling. There are a lot of books about that. So I want something very cozy where in the gym also everybody trains together. So let's say you're a professional player, I don't know, like from the national team. Uh, when you're on the court, you will have kids 14, 15 sharing the same court with you. We only have a half court, so we don't do a lot of private sessions. We always say whoever's around can join. And that's the type of feeling I want to get, where doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what level you are, doesn't matter how old you are. We just want all the people who want to work extra, who have the right mindset, come together to this place.
We need to take a quick break, but I want to keep going on this feeling because, like, man, just as you're talking, I'm getting a lot of joy just from this idea. Like, this is. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to continue on when we come back.
Hey there, basketball fans. I'm NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and I've got exciting news just for you.
Introducing my exclusive, free basketball shooting newsletter. It's packed with insights and techniques straight from the hardwood. Have you ever wondered how NBA players improve their shots? Or how you could get to the next level, whether you're a college player, a coach, or a budding youth player? My newsletter brings all this and more directly to your inbox. Each edition is a deep dive into the world of basketball shooting. I'll share some of the tips and ideas that I use with my NBA clients, tailored for every level of the game. But wait, there's more. Subscribers receive exclusive monthly discounts on my online products. From training videos to personalized coaching sessions, you'll get it all for a fraction of the price. And the best part of all, it's absolutely free to join. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your game and join a community of passionate players and coaches from around the globe. Signing up is easy. Just visit CoachDaveLove.com.
All right, welcome back. Joerik, I feel like you are basketball Ted Lasso on the personality side of things, and not a person displaced and in the wrong sort of setting, but just like letting the way you treat people and letting positivity be your guide.
Mhm.
I recently rewatched the dart scene, Be Curious, Not Judgmental, pretty recently. Like, I get chills just thinking about it. And I feel like that ethos is sort of, it embodies what you're trying to do.
No, I agree. I think just something I learned, for example, an eye opener for me was when we did the NBA camp with Popovich, and he had a very interesting talk at during dinner where he was talking about, like, we all think we're special, because we're NBA coaches. Everybody knows us. We're famous. We're NBA players. But if you look at what are we truly doing, like, our job is a game, like, what impact do we have on the world? Like, you have people who clean the streets. You have people who are doctors who are constantly helping each other. And we're just playing a game, with a game that's invented where somebody decided that we need to throw a ball through a ring with a net and a backboard. Like, literally, you can't take yourself too serious. Like, and it doesn't mean that you're a good coach or you're a good basketball player, that you're any better person than anybody else. So I think that's something that we truly try to do with the kids also. Like, it doesn't matter that you're a good player, like, you need to be a good person, and that's something that everybody can do.
Some knucklehead Canadian was the one who thought maybe we should put this ball in this peach basket.
Yeah, actually, so much they did. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Joerik, what's your favorite quote in your
Oh,
facility?
that's a good one.
Which one means the most to you?
I think for me, the most means just Kaizen. I get that. That's the biggest one. And so Kaizen means daily continuous improvement, because I think that's the one that changed my life the most. Like, when I started, I was like, oh shit, I'm 19 years old. I don't know anything about basketball. How do I get there? Like, like, it feels like almost impossible to go and make it. But then I learned about this book, about the principle of just, if you can take a small step every day, like, you're already doing more than 99% of people in the world. And all those little steps, those mini habits, they're gonna build up. And yeah, now I'm in year 15 and I still follow the same principle. Like, I try to do something every day to become better. Maybe it's on the business side, maybe it's on the personal side, but not a single day without any kind of improvement. So for me, I think that one means the most, because you can use it. And same thing for the kids, they can use it for anything they want. Like, if you have a dream, okay, just take one little step every day. And so that would be my favorite one.
I had a question and now it's escaped my brain. Matt, I might need you to jump in.
I can fill for a second here. It's funny. So, Joerik, I've been involved in basketball sort of on the sideline from my main career, and I was in sales, and now I'm in finance. But the numbers are always big,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that you get at the start of the year that you're not going to make it tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And so we're able to begin with the end in mind, but the principle remains the same, is that if you do the right stuff every day
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting a little better, doing a little bit every day, you're going to be in the mix when it comes time for month 10, 11, 12. You're going to be around that number. And
Yes.
I think that from a business perspective, from a basketball, just from a developmental perspective in general, awesome messaging, because it does take everyday discipline, 100%.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned in life is the consistency is what's going to get you towards your dreams, you know? So, uh, Dave, you know, like I always talk about the 1% club. Like, Dave, you're also in the 1% club. Like, there's only 1% of the people who truly make their dreams happen. And when I meet a lot of these people, I'm like, oh, maybe they're not even the smartest guy in the room, you know? Like, but these people have discipline and they're super consistent, and that's just what separates them. And I think that's, if I can teach one thing to the next generation or to our kids, then it would be, yeah, be consistent for sure.
Do you feel like you are as consistent as you can be?
I think you, if you're in this 1% club, like you can work 14 hours a day and then you go to bed and you still think you're lazy, you know? I, I I always think I should do more, you know, like even sometimes I do a full day, I don't eat because I'm so locked in. And I literally start in the morning and then till I go to bed and I still think, fuck, I could have done more, or I was at 30 minutes not locked in or something like that. So I think you need to, once you get satisfied, you're done, you know? So I think you should always have the feeling like you can do more. Yeah.
Complacency is kind of the enemy of great in that sense.
Yes.
Sorry, Dave.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I wanted to ask because I think our journeys in this realm kind of mirror each other a little bit, and I think we're pretty aligned. I want to ask about skill acquisition ideas. You're one of the guys that I really respected because you seem to you seem to become aware of these ideas when a lot of people, a lot of coaches aren't aware that there's research. But then you seem to have independent thought around, yeah, I'm like, there's research and there's theories and there's ideas. I'm also a practical coach, and I'm not teaching theoretical people. I'm teaching
Yes.
real people. So can you talk about like your journey, like at what point in your career you started to discover the research and then how it's kind of shaped you?
Yeah. So I would say for the first 7, 8 years in my life, like I always look for mentors. And I think for me, my mentors were like mostly like Drew Hanlon, for example. That would be my main guy where I would study him every single day. I would watch every video on his platform 4 or 5 times. And I think at that point of his career, it was more like, you know, block practice on air, just teaching moves, reps on reps on reps. And that was kind of like what I was doing. And we had great results for sure, but not with everybody. You know, like there was a big gap between practices and the games. So in practices, my guys would look absolutely amazing. And then I come to the games and only the best guys were really doing the stuff that we worked on. And that was always bothering me. Like, what am I doing wrong? You know, like why is this guy who's having the same amount of practices as him not performing the same way? So and then I went to a clinic in from the NBA in London, and I met another Canadian guy, Mike McKay, and they call him the Yoda of basketball trading. And he literally, I spent a week with him, like also at clinics and then dinners, and he totally, like, I went home and I was like, I don't know anything about basketball. I need to start over. So I literally did like 2 years research, and I love experimenting. So I never really have a, I would say like I'm doing this and this is everything I do. I always try to do new stuff because I want to learn this way. So I did 2 years only small-sided games, only CLA, nothing block practice anymore. And then I could had some time to really see, okay, I also see great results, but I also see other issues coming up, you know? So I see, for example, some guys are not creative and they can't find solutions. I see some guys are not confident enough to try new things. I see some guys, it's a step too hard to immediately apply things with defenders. And I think after that, so after those, again, 2-year experiments, now I'm a little bit in the middle where I would say I use, I don't know, it depends on what kind of practice, but I would say average, I would use 20% on air block practice, where I teach more like details, moves, because I still believe in that. And then 80% would be more like CLA, small sided games. And for me, I think right now we have better results, or more complete results. But still, in the end, you always think like, what do we know? Like there's basketball is not black and white. And then I see another trainer or another player who had a totally different path and is an NBA All-Star. I think if you look at all the NBA All-Stars, they all had very different trainers and different careers. And look at the European guys versus the American guys, for example. Like everybody had a different path. So I do think their basketball training isn't black and white. I do think like you should have your vision and you should own your vision and become an expert in that. But I hate it if it's on social media like, oh no, this is bullshit and this is perfect. Like I don't feel it that way, like it's the same. I will tell another story. Like I'm one of the best player in Belgium. I've been working with him since he was still 16, 17. And he doesn't want to do anything small-sided games. He doesn't want to do anything CLA. He's like, no, just let me do this. I want to do 10 makes, and then I want to do something else, 10 makes. Like, okay, you're the client, if this is what you want to do, then we do this. And he's the most skilled guy Belgium ever had, and he's doing great. He also plays EuroLeague. So, and then another guy of the national team, he only wants to do. He hates it on playing on air. He's like, it's boring. I want to play with defense. I want to have challenges, and he's also doing good. So it also depends from player to player, I think. Yeah.
Real quick before Dave, you get into your thing. What is CLA? This is a voice of the people moment where, yeah.
So constraint-led approach. So that means like you're gonna put some constraints when that can be on air, but that can be small-sided games. So I will give you an example. Let's say we play 3-on-3, and we say you can only score out of a ball screen, for example, and defense cannot switch. That would be, for example, you add some constraints to when they're playing, but it can also be on air. So, for example, shooting, you can take the same shot 2 times in a row from the same spot and the same distance. That would be also a constraint. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, Dave.
Joerik, as you talked about going to meet Mike McKay and then coming back inspired to be a different kind of coach. Logistically, what did that look like in that first week as you're like, I might have been like not doing this the best way and I need to make changes, but coaches have habits too.
Yeah.
How did you slowly or quickly start to make that change as a coach?
Yeah, I do it very quickly. Like I'm not scared to fuck up, to say it that way. To be honest, like sometimes I do a drills, I try something, or I see something and I'm like, okay, let's build on this and try something else, and it's a disaster. It's terrible. None of the players know. They don't see it. Like that's the crazy thing. Like we as coaches, we see it, but the players have no clue. So you can experiment the whole time, So when I learn something new, I go 100% into it. Like I get away of all my habits and I just try it. And yeah, for me, I try at least every practice. I do something that I never done before. I try to keep that habit. Yeah.
Why did that make you sit back, Matt?
Well, that's just so. It's something to aspire to. It's terrifying. It's exciting. Like it is a true experimentation. And again, you might throw 80% of your new ideas or 70% of your new ideas, but the stuff that sticks, you're like, oh, if I hadn't have been willing to be vulnerable and willing to be put in a place where I might not be successful, you might not have found these 20 or 30% of things. Like that's a really cool approach.
Well, and what I try and do, like I don't think I'm as prolific as Joerik is with that idea, but try to take the same approach, and usually it's with the player on my team, meaning okay, this is what I want to try and accomplish. Let's try this. I've never done this before. And then it doesn't work. And then now it's the player and I figuring out, like, okay, you know what I want to accomplish. You felt as well why it didn't work. Let's come up with a solution. How do we adjust this drill to get the desired impact? And the adjustment might be, no, this was doomed from the start. Let's come up with something totally different. Let's figure it out.
Yep.
And I think it builds a relationship between the two of you, as opposed to, like, we feel like we have to have all the answers.
Yes.
They're smart. They have answers as well.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of times, I think as coaches, we just underestimate the players. Like, we feel like we need to give all the answers. I think so. That's something also I talk about so many times is most coaches coach too much, like they're trying to talk the whole time. I don't know if you know, but I I had this talk with somebody from soccer, and he was the head of the academy of Glasgow Rangers. So it's one of the biggest soccer academies in Europe, one of the most successful ones. And of course, soccer has a lot more money than basketball. So he was like, "Oh, that's a crazy idea. Like most coaches talk too much. Let's go and make it into an experiment." So they hired like 7 people, and the only thing they had to do was go watch the practices and time how long the coach was talking. And they did that for 1 month, and then they came with the results, and the result showed that over 40% of the time in practice, the coach was talking on average. 40%. And
Wow.
I 100% think in basketball it's the same thing. You see it all the time, like a coach, okay, bring it in, and then he has maybe 1 point, and then he keeps talking and talking, and now we're 4 minutes off the clock, and we haven't touched the ball, and all the players are like looking to the ceiling and looking to each other, or have no idea what the coach is saying anymore. So I do feel like that's what I learned is talk less and let the drills speak for itself and let the players figure it out. It's stronger than if the players figure things out themselves, what works, then you need to go and tell them.
Gentlemen, I want to keep going on this train of thought. We should take another break, and we'll get back to it after this.
Hey basketball fans, Coach Dave Love here with an exclusive offer just for you, my personalized video shot analysis. Imagine having an NBA shooting coach analyze your shooting form, just like I do for the pros. That's exactly what you'll get with my video shot analysis. Here's how it works. You send me a video of your shot and I'll break it down frame by frame. I'll pinpoint your strengths and identify the areas of improvement and give you tailored advice to take your shot to the next level. You'll receive a comprehensive analysis designed just for you. Whether you're a beginner or an aspiring pro, my feedback will help you shoot with confidence and precision. It isn't just feedback, it's a game changer. With my video shot analysis, you're not just practicing, you're evolving, and every single shot counts. Ready to transform your game? Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store to learn more and get started. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store and look for video shot analysis.
All right, welcome back. Joerik, what you were just saying really sort of dovetails really nicely with Dave's player-led approach conversation, where you're letting the drills speak for themselves. You're letting the players really help dictate the direction the practices are going. Is that something you guys are able to use in your academy, kind of a player-led approach, or again, you're experimenting a ton? Is it a balance?
Yeah, I think we're always experimenting, and sometimes it's maybe too much that we do. I think that's at the point where we're at right now. Like, we need to give them a little bit more structure, because we're also playing conceptual, and it's great, but sometimes they need a little bit more guidance. So I think we need to get a little bit back, and okay, we need to really nail this type of coaching before we can get them, giving them a little bit more freedom. So it's constantly finding that balance, and it's also such a difference between if you have a kid who is already here for 4 years, or you have a kid who's new, depending on the age, depending on what topic you use. Like there are practices where I talk less than 5 minutes in the whole practice, for sure. The music is super loud. I'm like, this, go up, and then up, next, boom. And there are practices where a little bit more teaching, and maybe then you speak like 30 minutes. But if you teach something like I call it golden nugget teaching. If you teach something that sticks to them and you do it one time really well, they remember it for the rest of their lives. So then I think it makes sense that you talk as a coach a lot more. Yeah.
I totally agree with the try and talk less. Can we give some practical ideas on, like, somebody who's listening who says, I probably am that 40% person.
Yeah.
How can they talk less? My first piece of advice would be, okay, when you feel like you want to say something, instead of giving the answer, can you figure out a way to ask a question that will guide the player towards their answer, which might be different than yours? That would
Yes.
be my advice. I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, that is a perfect advice, because that's something that we try to do with our coaches also. Like, always question. Instead of you saying it, like, let them figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, let the team help each other. So 100%, that would be the first thing. I think second of all is, like, if you're not teaching something new, you should be able to talk less than 30 seconds. And I think if you need to talk more than 30 seconds, the drill is too complicated, or it's doesn't always make sense to me. So keep your explanation under 30 seconds. If you have a golden nugget, you can, of course, speak more. But if it's not something new, keep it under 30 seconds. And I think the last part is never emphasize more than 3 things. So either if you correct somebody or you're using CLA, don't give more than 3 constraints. Like 3 is always the max. Even in-game coaching, if you do a timeout, you cannot say more than 3 things, because so many information gets lost. Same thing, a couple of weeks ago, I was in the locker room with one of our head coaches, and he put like 5 or 6 things on the board before the game. So then they all go out of the locker room, and I talk to him like, okay, don't look at the board. Tell me everything you wrote down. And he was like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, this. Oh yeah, what was the last one? Oh, what was the last two?
Right.
If you as a coach don't know, what do you expect like 14-year-olds to know? So keep it simple. Just maximum 3 things and go.
I will try to, early on in the process, working on somebody's shot, working on their mechanics, I'll plant seeds early on where, in the first 1, 2, 3 workouts, I'll say, like, when I'm standing here, what do you think I'm looking at?
Mhm.
Okay, and when I'm standing back there, what do you think I'm looking at? So that 2 weeks down the road, I can give feedback just by moving and standing on a different part of the floor. And I think Matt and I've talked about this a couple of times on the podcast, where I did a workout with Aaron Gordon, a year into us working together, and I said 5 words in the entire workout, but I gave a poop ton of direction just non-verbally, by just going and standing in a spot. He knew what I was looking at. He got a little reminder, whether he was conscious of it or not, and I felt like was able to apply without me having to open my mouth.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, because let's say, for example, you start with a player from scratch. Yeah, let's say there are a couple of examples right now in the league of guys with absolutely terrible shooting form. Let's say you get one of those guys. It's not one thing. It's you see immediately 4 or 5 things at least that you want to address. Like, how would you do it? Like, do you focus in the start on one thing, or would you immediately say start with the end product where you want to go to, or how would you do it, Dave?
For the most part, I find most players are out of position in some way at the set point. That once you, like, at that position around the forehead where we really start to accelerate the ball, really start to apply force to the ball, most players are out of position in some way there. And so with most guys, I end up saying, like, okay, in what ways are we missing that important position? And usually I can kind of, if there are 2 or 3 things that are related, I can fit them into one idea where it's just like, okay, stop doing this and this and this, and just do this.
Yeah.
And then as they start to get better, maybe you got some things in posture or foot position that you can start to sprinkle in. But I usually try and zone in on what's the one thing and or the biggest thing. Let them start to feel comfort in that, and then give little micro doses of the other stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
I want to talk, Joerik, about your creative side for a second, as though we haven't been, but away from basketball. Can you describe for the people that are listening what's behind you right now?
Oh, yeah, this is my office, but my office is also my Lego room. So I'm building a theme park. So I get like, I don't know, I think around 15 attractions right now built. Because I love always going to Disneyland or like Universal Studios. But I like to go to those places not really because of the rides, but because of the experience they create. You know, like the I love the theming, the architecture, like how they think about every little thing, the music and how it makes you feel. And that's kind of like how I try to, yeah, do my life also. Like how can I'm interested in, yeah, creating experiences. So that's what I'm trying to do in here also a little bit, you know.
Do you have an architectural or design background, or like it's very obvious to me as kind of a friend and definitely a follower of yours for 10 years, it's obvious that this is a passion of yours.
Yeah.
Do you have any formal schooling, or is it just an area of interest that you foster?
No, it's just an area of interest. Like I have a lot of Pinterest accounts about that. So I'm always doing that stuff. But for example, like I designed our previous house from scratch, like everything that was really cool project. Or now in this house also, like I want to always do some stuff about that also, yeah.
Dave,
Okay, so
go ahead.
then, sorry, Maddie. This is something I want to spend like 10 minutes on because I think this part of your um, life is fascinating to me. I think I've said this to you. I've paid you this compliment behind your back no less than 50 times. And I think I've said it to your face. You seem like a guy who has an idea and then has the patience to see through that idea,
Mhm.
but then by the end will step back and say, okay, this is now great. How can I make this 5 or 10% cooler in everything that you do? Like from the facility, and we've got a bench that you have to climb up to that's 5 meters off the ground. Like, who thinks to do that? Or my Lego, or just the book that you have coming out, which we need to make sure that we're plugging. It looks fantastic, and I don't even know what my question is. I would just love to hear you talk about this.
Yeah, what can I say, Leo? That those are things that really yeah, have my interest. Like how can you make the details pop, you know? For me, the details is what makes the difference. So I want to think about every little thing, like, okay, how can we improve this? How can I make, even in the book, how can I make this page a little bit cooler? How can I, yeah, same thing, like I want to create a feeling with people without using words, you know? So that's something that really interests me. Like, how can you do that? And now with the book, because it's a lot, I got over 500 photos in the book. So it's kind of like even the photos, I want them to fit on the page. Like this creates already, it says more than words what we're trying to do in a way, you know? So
Wh-
yeah.
Where will people where will people be able to find this book? It's not out quite yet, correct?
No, I'm waiting for Tanner to to get it online, but it will be probably next week. I think Monday. I think we're gonna launch it, and it will just be on the Elite Athletes website. So just eliteathletes.be. But yeah, Tanner is doing the
Uh,
launch.
I won't let you give the plug. If it's okay with you, I want to give the plug for this book. If you're a coach and you want to if you want to find the perfect balance between inspiration and practical application, then I don't care what this book costs, it's worth it. And so go and spend I'm sure it's going to be $87, and why am I spending $87 on a book? Spend it. And if it's less than that, then oh my God, you're getting it. If it's less than $800, you're getting a deal. You will leave thinking like, number one, I want to hang out with Joerik. Number two, I can't wait to get back and become a better coach. And I feel like I have a couple of ideas on how I can be better. Buy this book.
Thank you. That's very nice from you.
Okay. We've got to Legos. What Lego are you working on right now? Is it the theme park, or are there other satellite Legos?
So I'm working on Indiana Jones roller coaster with like a temple that then goes into the rocks, and then with a waterfall and an airplane that crashes, and some scenes from Indiana Jones movies in the middle. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah.
How big of an area does this take up?
Yeah, the room is full, so I really need to go and find something else, to be honest. Like I can't fit any more people in here, so need to find
and this is not based off a plan, like you're building this from scratch.
Yes, I hate following the plan. So if I buy Lego and I never follow the plan, I just look what I can do with the bricks, because I don't have the patience I find it boring just following the plan, I wanted to be creative and do something myself.
In the lead up to this episode, I can't remember if Dave said it to you or about you before you got on the line. He was like, I have no notes. Joerik is the most interesting coach that I know. We're going to be fine for an hour here. Joerik, you are a fascinating dude, man. This has been an awesome conversation. And I know we're sort of coming to the end of our time here a little bit, but again, I don't know anything about your methodology. I have not read your book. I'm leaving here feeling inspired today, and I really hope that our listeners will also get that feeling from you. That's very cool.
Can we try and do a hammer action?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for first-time listeners and Joerik, hammer action is where we try to hammer home some actionable items from today's episode. Joerik, Dave, actually, do you want to lead off with a hammer action and give Joerik a taste, or do you just want to let him run?
No, we'll give him a little bit of guidance on this. So basically the idea is, can we what would we like coaches listening to take out of this, and an actionable thing that they can now try and do? I'm going to revisit mine from earlier in the episode, which would be the next time that you want to say something, just spend another 5 seconds and figure out how to ask a question that what you want to say might be the answer to, and ask that question instead. That's mine. You can't steal mine, Joerik. You have to come up with your own.
No, I think to build on it, what I can also say is like the thing I learned from Popovich, I think is very important. Like, just doesn't matter how good you are as a coach, like just try to be a good person, try to be a CMP, and try to always treat people with respect and treat your players with respect. I think that won't be also, that goes beyond basketball. So I think that's an important one. What else do we got?
That's for you to decide. I want to recap the fact that in this episode, which we started recording at 6:30 a.m. in my time zone, my alarm went off. Your notifications went off on your laptop a couple of times, and Matt's baby was crying. And so we did this is life. They're like, we are not perfect. We got stuff going on, and guys, I really appreciate both of you giving up your time. Joerik is especially obviously being our guest. Really, like, thank you for sharing. How do people find you?
I think the easiest way is just through Instagram. So just my name and just at Joerik, and then yeah, I think I'm always open for everybody if you want to ask questions, or I try to answer everybody, yeah, as fast as possible. So you can always reach out for sure.
Coach Dave, where could the people find you?
Same thing on Instagram at Coach Dave Love. Same thing on Twitter, or go to my newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com and sign up for a boatload of free information. Matthew, where do the people find you?
Awesome. I am Matt Robertson on LinkedIn. I'm at Coach Matty Rob on X. Joerik, you've been an absolute delight. What a pleasure. You are the second Belgian person that I have met, and the second Belgian person who is an A+ CNP. So score one for the Belgian culture on this one. For the listeners, thank you for sticking with us till the end. We hope this was as fun for you as it was for us. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. It all really helps. And you'll see us next week.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Coach Dave Love Podcast. To stay up to date with our future episodes, please remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to sign up for Coach Love's free shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com, and be sure to follow him on social media. You can find him at Coach Dave Love.